Let us pray. O Lord, as we conclude for this week our work in this assembly, we renew our thanks and ask that we may continue our work under your guidance. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly two distinguished visitors who are seated in your gallery. Senator Ted Strickland is President of the Colorado State Senate and Chairman of the Southwest Energy Council. As you are aware, Alberta has had a long and beneficial relationship with the energy sector in the United States, particularly with the Southwest Energy Council, whose membership includes many of the oil and gas producing states. The Senator is a long-serving and respected member of the Colorado State Senate, and in pursuing his interests in the energy sector has become a very active member of the Energy Council. I might also add, Mr. Speaker, that he has been the president of the National Council of State Legislatures, and for 1 year we served together as co-chairman of the Canada-USA Legislative Exchange Project. He's accompanied by Laurie Cameron, who is a lawyer who has practiced environmental law, served as energy counsel to the Louisiana State Senate, and has drafted an energy policy for the state of Louisiana, as well as a comprehensive national energy strategy proposal for the Southwest Energy Council, which has been submitted to the President for consideration. During their visit here, they will meet with governmental officials to discuss matters relating to several different areas of our petroleum industry. And I would invite Senator Strickland and Ms. Cameron to rise in the gallery and receive a warm welcome of the Assembly.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills.
Member for Rocky Mountain House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill being the County Amendment Act 1991. Mr. Speaker, this Amendment Act deals with the possibility of the continuation of counties, the method of asking for a referendum. It deals with the petitions to counties, and also allows for the ability of a summer village with a population of less than 150 people to have the right to vote in the school election.
The Honourable Member for Rocky Mountain House has moved first reading of Bill 38, County Amendment Act 1991. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 38, County Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the Honourable Member, Mr. Lund, now read a first time.
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Bill 38, the County Amendment Act 1991, be placed on the order paper under Government Bills and Orders.
Having heard the motion, those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered. Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to give first reading to Bill 315, an act entitled the Annual Election of the Speaker Act. It's the first step and the big step in the initiation of parliamentary reform, calling for the annual election of the Speaker of this Assembly by secret ballot.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Glengarry has moved first reading of Bill 315, the Annual Election of the Speaker Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 315, Annual Election of the Speaker Act, introduced by the Honourable Member, Mr. Takor, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 316, being an act to amend the Legislative Assembly Act If passed, Mr. Speaker, this would provide for the election of the offices of Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and Chairman of Committees, and Deputy Chairman of Committees on the first convening of the legislature after a general election. And it further provides to give effect to the transition that these three offices become vacant as of October the 1st, 1991.
Thank you. The honourable member for Edmonton Mill Woods has moved first reading of Bill 316, an act to amend the Legislative Assembly Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 316, an act to amend the Legislative Assembly Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Gibault, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Speaker, I'm pleased to table with the Assembly the 1989-1990 annual report of the Department of Alberta Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Minister of Education.
Speaker, as Minister responsible for the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities, I am honored today to file with the Assembly the government's response to the action plan submitted by the Premier's Council. Our response is entitled Achieving Full Participation in the Life of Alberta, and copies will be made available to all members of the Assembly.
Minister of the Environment, followed by the member for Calgary-Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the interim acid deposition critical loadings for Western and Northern Canada report. Also, motion for return 210.
Thank you. Member for Calgary-Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table the 1990 annual report of the College of Chiropractors of Alberta.
Thank you. Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to table 4 copies of the Community Charter of Fundamental Social Rights for Workers. It's part of the European Economic Integration of 1992, and it lays out the intentions of the participating countries to protect workers' rights, workers' wages, and the social safety net built up by over many years in those countries.
Additional. Thank you.
Introduction of special guests.
Honourable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, just previously the Minister of Education tabled a document regarding the action plan on the Premier's Council on the status of persons with disabilities. Mr. Premier, that council is doing an outstanding job on behalf of all Albertans. Now, they either are in the House now or shortly will be in the House, certain members of that council. And I'd like to have the House welcome them. First would be Gary McPherson, the chairman. Secondly, Harvey Ball, a member of the council. Jim Vargo, a member of the council. And Cheryl Crocker, a member of the council. They're accompanied by staff Fran Vargo and other members accompanying them. To assist them are Margot McPherson, Edie Lemieux, and Carol Chawrun. And I'd ask the House to give them a warm reception.
The Associate Minister of Agriculture, followed by the Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly a group of grade 5 students from the Coronation School in the Chinook constituency. Accompanying the students today are teachers Mr. Tony Seltzer and Miss Donna Tupper, and parents Debbie Luton, Gary Weeb, James Clausen, and Rob Bullock. Also in attendance, they're very faithful bus drivers Gerald Lang and Melanie Robertson. Mr. Speaker, these students are seated and their supervisors are seated in the members gallery. I would ask them to rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, shortly I will have an opportunity to read a statement about National Access Awareness Week, but to honor that week we have a number of volunteers who are vital to the success of next week's important week, and we are honored in the Assembly today to have the provincial chairperson of the week, Mrs. Iris Saunders, Vice Chairperson Penny Oman, the provincial coordinator, Mr. Mike Keeping, as well as Shelley Chamberlain. I'd ask them to rise or wave and ask all members to receive them warmly as we normally do.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased today to have the mayor of one of the most progressive communities in my constituency, the town of Staveley. So I would ask Mayor John Byrne and his wife to stand in the gallery and receive the recognition of the Assembly.
Three Hills, followed by Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce a group of 32 students from the Bicycle Community School. They're grade 10 students, Mr. Speaker, and they are accompanied by teachers Miss Deborah Anderson and Mrs. Helen Hui. As well, parents, Mrs. Val Fazoli and Mr. Brian Carnes. I'd like them all to rise in both galleries and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored today to be able to introduce a group of young people visiting the Assembly from Rundle College. The college is located in Calgary Mountain View, but the students come from all over the city of Calgary. They are in the public gallery and they're accompanied by their teacher, Mr. Rod Martins, and I'd like to ask all members of the Assembly to extend to them warm greetings and welcome to Edmonton this morning.
Cypress Wakeford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's appropriate, the last to be introduced to those that have came the furthest for visiting in the gallery this morning. I have in the gallery a group of 29. 21 of them are students and 8 are parents and or teachers from Senator Gershaw High School in Bow Island. And they're going to have an interesting morning because they're going to watch question period, then understand they're going to go to the Journal and watch a paper being made and put together. And I guess then they'll read it, the next edition, and find out what they seen, what happened, and what is reported what happened. So it could be an interesting morning. Mr. Speaker, they are accompanied by Bob Thompson, the principal of this school, a number of parents, and by Ed Torsher, the county reeve of the county of 40 Mile and member of the school board. I would ask him to rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements.
Mr. Speaker, next week in Alberta we will celebrate National Access Awareness Week. Mr. Speaker, accessibility for disabled Albertans is more than removing visible barriers and making changes to buildings. Accessibility means full and active participation in the life of Alberta. It means ensuring that disabled Albertans take their full place in Alberta society with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. National Access Awareness Week is an opportunity for us to remember a visit to Alberta in 1987 by a truly remarkable Canadian, Rick Hansen. None of us who met the man in motion can forget his determination and commitment. He opened our eyes to what can be achieved if we focus on abilities rather than disabilities. Next week, Mr. Speaker, also allows us to recognize the work of the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities and the many advocacy and community groups who the Council works with. Also to recognize their work in spelling out a vision of abilities in Alberta and to recognize the Council for its support for the government's amendments of the Individual Rights Protection Act. Mr. Speaker, I was proud a few minutes ago to table a status report summarizing the actions taken by Premier Getty's government to implement the action plan developed by the Council. Since its release, my cabinet colleagues and their departments have been going about the job of making it happen. Of the 114 recommendations recommended in the plan, 30 have been put into effect. Another 66 are in the process of being put into place, and plans are underway for considering the remaining 18. Some of these actions are major ones, Mr. Speaker. Our government has just announced significant changes to the home care program and the Aids to Daily Living program, changes which respond directly to the recommendations of the Premier's Council. We've also taken significant steps to ensure that buildings are barrier-free. And in the next few days, the Minister of Labour will announce important changes to the building code, changes which will put into place another 16 action plan recommendations. Education, too, has undertaken a complete review of special education programs, their funding and their coordination. A policy on integrating disabled children will see disabled students taking their rightful place in our regular classrooms, learning alongside their peers. In recognizing the goals of independence and self-sufficiency, a new pilot program called Ability Plus has been initiated by my colleague, the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. This new program will increase business opportunities for disabled persons, allowing them to start a new business or expand an existing one. Mr. Speaker, the government is also committed to ensuring a coordinated approach to the delivery of personal supports. A community support task force has been established to develop a plan to better consolidate the delivery of government services. We are also considering how best to consolidate vocational rehabilitation and training for disabled persons under the Career Development and Employment Department. Mr. Speaker, those are just a few highlights. The status report I've tabled this morning is comprehensive, but no one should think that this is an end. In fact, it is an important beginning, Mr. Speaker, and I'm proud of the way which my colleagues have responded so positively to the Premier's Council recommendations. We haven't taken the route of announcing expensive new initiatives or new support programs for disabled Albertans. Instead, we've taken the Premier's Council's advice and looked at what we have now in place and how we can change the way we do business to ensure that accessibility becomes our first consideration rather than something we try to fix after the fact. The Premier's Council has told us they don't want quick fixes, Mr. Speaker. They're looking for long-term, fundamental change. Change that enables disabled Albertans to be independent, responsible, and proud Albertans. That's our commitment, Mr. Speaker, and we are determined to achieve the goal of full accessibility and participation by disabled people in the life of Alberta.
Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the government's response to the Premier's Council Action Plan and recognizing that next week is National Access Awareness Week, too, an official opposition would like to acknowledge the excellent work of the volunteers and, of course, the people in the Council. Mr. Speaker, I have to obviously agree with most of what was said in that ministerial statement. I think we've tended too often to concentrate on the visible barriers, although that is important, but it means a lot more, as the Minister says, in changes to building. It means full and active participation. And I certainly agree, as we have pushed on this side of the House, to extend the home care program. And we certainly agreed with that in the throne speech and through the Minister of Health's program. Mr. Speaker, I would, though, like to move where the Minister says we haven't taken the route of announcing expensive new initiatives and new support programs for disabled Albertans. Instead, we've taken the Premier's Council's advice and looked at what we have in place now and then how we can change the way we do business. Well, Mr. Speaker, that's fine and dandy. I agree that there has to be a long-range plan and everything can't be done overnight. But, Mr. Speaker, let me just turn to one area. I'm talking about AISH, Mr. Speaker. These people, many of them are disabled, live below the poverty level. They're in desperate need of a raise. The amount of money that they get is $755 per month. Now, I don't consider this a quick fix. I just consider this reasonable under the circumstances when you're that far below the poverty level. And surely the government could do something about that, Mr. Speaker. I would also point out to the Minister that people moving into communities from institutions often do not get the proper support services. I do not consider this a quick fix, Mr. Speaker. Again, I consider this reasonable under the circumstances. Now, Mr. Speaker, we noticed that in the throne speech, they promised to implement a number of recommendations. as announced previously. We've asked these questions in budget debate about some of these recommendations: when, how many, which ones. We understand now that some from the minister's announcement, some will be coming from the Minister of Labor, but I wish the government could be a little more specific about their overall plans, as enunciated in the speech from the throne.
Good point.
So, Mr. Speaker, we certainly will agree with the thrust of it, but we think in the short term there's a lot of things that could be done and should be done by this government.
Hear, hear.
Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services. Mr. Speaker, the increasing use of public propaganda blitzes by this government reveals to me in stark terms just how defensive, desperate, and out of touch it really is.
Yep.
We watch as this government spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps into the millions, of taxpayers' money in a TV blitz to sell their so-called balanced budget. We have just observed the Minister of Economic Development now hopscotching all over the province with misleading propaganda to cover up his government's outrageous loan guarantee losses.
That's right.
But now, Mr. Speaker, we see this government's going to send propaganda pamphlets out to 190,000 seniors' households in a bald attempt to hide the fact that cutbacks to programs have hurt seniors all over this province. Seniors know what's going on. They don't need this, Mr. Speaker. But my question to the minister is simply this. Given that this government doesn't have money for seniors and has slashed $21 or $22 million from programs for seniors, can the minister explain how much it is going to spend on this conservative damage control advertising program?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member for raising this issue, because it's an issue that was created by his own party. We are indeed sending out brochures explaining the programs that are in place and the changes that have been made, because there's been a great deal of confusion and anxiety raised due to that confusion by the members of the party opposite. We are tying in with our usual activities, announcing Seniors Week that is coming up in 2 weeks, and we're taking advantage of that. I don't have the figures that this is costing at the moment because we're in the middle of it, but I will have those shortly.
Let me understand this minister. He's saying that seniors don't understand the cutbacks, that somehow that they're totally misled, so they're going to go into the barrel of money from the treasurer, dig in, whatever it takes, we'll send out a propaganda blitz, Mr. Speaker. Right. Is the minister saying that he has no idea how much money he's spending of taxpayers' money to mislead seniors? Is that what he's saying?
Oh, boo. Mr. Speaker, I did not say that the seniors were confused. I said they were concerned. And they were concerned because of the anxieties brought on by the confusion and deliberate misrepresentation of the programs and changes to those programs that were made in this House. I have an idea. The member asked for an exact amount. I don't have that at the moment. But I feel a very strong responsibility to making certain that the seniors, if there's anxieties exist, that those anxieties are relieved, and I can justify the expenses that are involved.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the old saying, spend, 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 Mr. Speaker. But don't even know how much you're spending, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, the minister, if they'd consulted with the seniors, wouldn't be in this dilemma. Right. Now they think consultation is sending out a propaganda blitz. That's their idea of consultation. But the amount of money that he's spending that he refuses to tell or he doesn't know, Mr. Speaker, a simple question that seniors are going to ask him, wouldn't this money have been better spent putting it back into the seniors' programs that they already cut instead of sending out a propaganda blitz to them?
Where have you been?
Well, I take exception with the word propaganda, Mr. Speaker. I can't help it. This is a lot of nonsense. Once again, there's been an awful lot of anxiety raised by the misrepresentation and the fear-mongering that has gone on, particularly by this party, Mr. Speaker. And anything that I am doing is trying to correct their action, I'd be very, very willing to accept part of their communication allowance to deal with the correction of some of the very facts that they've been distorting. So I think if anyone has a responsibility to address this situation, then I would look to that party to lend a hand.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition. Second.
Second question is the Minister of Health, Mr. Speaker, the cohort in this, Mr. Speaker. But 2 days ago, the Minister of Health defended her government's cutbacks to the number of public health inspectors in this province by replying that she wants to train restaurant operators and others to police themselves. Great. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is such a brilliant, bright idea. I'm surprised the Premier didn't think of it first. Think of its applications. We could save millions by chopping traffic cops, by simply training motorists to police themselves, by axing occupational health inspectors, simply by training employers to turn themselves in when they ignore worksite dangers, and by firing fire code inspectors by simply training builders to adhere to standards voluntarily, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've heard a lot of nonsense from this government, but this is right up near the top, Mr. Speaker. But I'd like to give this minister a chance to retract this ridiculous proposal. Isn't it likely, Mr. Speaker, that the very people who are the subject of health regulations may not be the regulations' most objective enforcers?
Central planning. Well, Mr. Speaker, perhaps the Honourable Leader of the Opposition would like to make fun of the 13,000 Alberta restaurant employees who have already taken this course and who are working in their own food establishments with the knowledge, the understanding, and the education they need to serve the public in a healthy way. If you'd like to make fun of them, let them go right ahead. We believe that there's a complementarity between the inspection service and the education and working with employee service, as opposed to simply an inspection service, which I know the Leader of the Opposition would prefer only. But we think working with partnerships with our restaurateurs across this province, we can in fact make a healthier province for healthier Albertans.
Send in the militia. Mr. Speaker, the reality is you're just cheap and you've cut back and you don't care about the public health. That's nothing to do with partnership. But, Mr. Speaker, talk about it if she wants to. The Alberta Restaurant and Food Services Association thinks the minister is dead wrong. In fact, they say there should be more health inspectors, not less. That's coming from them, Mr. Speaker. They take their position seriously, unlike this minister. But, Mr. Speaker, my question to the minister is this. Enforcing cutbacks to the number of Alberta public health inspectors, is the minister not directly failing in her mandate as expressed in a 1991 environmental health study done for her department, and I quote, to ensure that the health and well-being of individuals and their families is protected? She is failing in that, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is wrong when he says there's been cutbacks in public health. As he should know, we've had a 20% increase in public health budget this year for the 91 budget of the Department of Health, and I think it's an important statement of the priority that we place on community health services. However, he is correct that the environmental strategy paper, which was commissioned by the Department of Health, is certainly looking at environmental health strategy and the role of health inspectors, whose role is becoming increasing. And we want to look at how to best use those inspectors, given the shortage that there are in some places of this province to hire people with the qualifications. So it is part of an overall plan to look at health inspection workers as part of our environmental health strategy. And certainly health units, not this government, are looking at the priorities within their own communities as to how they may use their resources most appropriately, and working in partnership with those health units along with a 20% increase, I believe, is a very strong statement of commitment by this province.
Me too. The only strong statement from this government is the health care system is in jeopardy, Mr. Speaker. And there are cutbacks, and she's well aware of it, of health inspectors, Mr. Speaker. But my question to the minister is simply this. The minister's legacy as a minister, closing of hospital beds, health care workers being fired, health units cutting back, Mr. Speaker, that's her legacy. And I want to ask her this. How can she stand here day after day and say that the health care system in this province is not being jeopardized by our government's policies?
Well, Well, Mr. Speaker, with a lot of effort from a lot of people all across this province, at least my legacy won't be one of bankrupting the healthcare system, which is certainly the way that the opposition would like to go. We have provided a 10% increase to our healthcare system. We have work going on across this province, which is bringing people within the health industry and Albertans together in a way that has never occurred before. And we are making sure that we can pass on, as a government, something that we feel is very precious in this country, and that's the sustainability of our health system. And we're going to make all the effort in the world we can to ensure that we preserve it.
Agreed. Edmonton Glengarry.
Thank you. My questions are to the Honourable Minister of Education, Mr. Speaker. A program known as Head Start has been initiated in Edmonton with great success. The program has been tested in the United States and has been in place since 1960 in much of the United States. It's a program to lift children who are disadvantaged by giving them assistance to make them equals in terms of those children that come from homes that have greater resources. It is estimated that for every dollar that is invested in this program, society saves between $5 and $10 down the line. Now, Mr. Speaker, my first question to the Minister is this. I know that the Minister has shown and has expressed interest and sympathy for this program. I'd like to know whether the Minister has now completed his investigation and when we can be told or when we will see a policy and monies delivered to make sure that Head Start works throughout the province of Alberta.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is absolutely correct. Head Start works. And we have begun in a small way to fund, to make funding available for that kind of a program. In our funding for community schools, Mr. Speaker, there is the flexibility for school boards to be able to mount that kind of a Head Start program with over $5.5 million worth of funding in community schools. In addition to that, a pilot program in 4 school boards in Calgary and Edmonton, some $2.6 million this year. Those funds are there and available for a school board to make that kind of a decision to meet the needs of their students in those 2 communities. And Mr. Speaker, my colleague, the Minister of Family and Social Services, and I have met with the strong advocates of Head Start, especially in the city of Edmonton, and we are endeavoring to do our best to find ways to support the further expansion of that Head Start program.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the interest and the sympathy and the excitement that the Minister shows for this program. It really is genuine, and I appreciate that. The problem is that if you talk to school boards, you talk to people involved in social welfare volunteer organizations, there simply is an absolute taxing to the limit of the monies that you've talked about. There aren't monies that can be divvied up further and further and further. The pie can't be cut up. They need more money, and you can save, society can save. My question is this, Mr. Minister. It's more monies that are needed. You indicated, Mr. Speaker, well, the Honourable Minister is talking about where's your wallet. The wallet is you...
Order, please. Take your place, Honourable Member. Take your place. You were going on for a fairly lengthy time with respect to your supposedly succinct supplementary. Then you started engaging debate. I'm sorry, you must ask your question. Let's have somebody else give the answer.
My question is...
Mr. Minister, my question is this. Sit down for a minute. You sit down. Okay, you understand it? Let's have the answer. Good.
Mr. Speaker,
what a good minister.
The honourable member is saying...
Minister of Education.
Okay, go for it. Go for it, Jim.
The honourable member is saying that money is the only answer. And I have to take issue with the honourable member, that it is not simply a matter of more money, pour it in and stir and you'll get results. Where Head Start will work best is when there is a concerted effort amongst all of the players in education, all of the players in the community, not just the Department of Education, which is already funding programs that could put dollars into Head Start. It requires a commitment by local school boards, by local city councils, by family and community support service agencies, by hospitals and social welfare agencies. And Mr. Speaker, we have to stop thinking about solutions only in terms of dollars and instead focusing our existing efforts into looking for results like a Head Start program. And Mr. Speaker, I would encourage and have encouraged and will continue to encourage agencies like I've mentioned to come together in a community to work in a concerted effort to bring about a Head Start type program.
Good work. Here comes another. Mr. Speaker, the evidence is clear. The proof is there. For every dollar that's invested, society, government, the taxpayers save $5 or $10 down the line. The minister has talked about business involving itself in this program. Many think that this is just a deflection by the minister. I'd like to know what programs you've initiated with business and when they'll come forward to deal with this very serious problem.
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, school boards and the provincial government ask Alberta taxpayers, including Alberta business people, to invest some $2.6 billion in basic education in this budget year alone. So the business community and individual Albertans are contributing mightily to our education system. But Mr. Speaker, I talked about a concerted effort of all those agencies in the community as well as the business community. And my colleague, the Minister of Family and Social Services, and I have met with some representatives of the business community, and we are hopeful. We are hopeful that in the space of the next 12 to 18 months, that there may be an opportunity, for some special additional funding for that kind of a Head Start program.
Good work.
Calgary Fish Creek.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Several members of the Calgary Board of Health have recently raised public concerns with respect to a proposed recreation and residential development in the Elbow River watershed just upstream of the Glenmore Reservoir. And they are primarily concerned about the potential impact of that development on the quality of the drinking water in Calgary. And I'm wondering if the Minister of the Environment could advise the Assembly as to the progress of his department's review of this proposal.
Well, Mr. Speaker, while a formal environmental impact assessment has not been conducted, understanding that municipal subdivision planning and development is the responsibility of the local authority, we nonetheless have reviewed a number of areas of concern. With respect to environmentally sensitive areas, we have ensured that there will be no residential or golf course development in those areas. We have demanded soil and slope stability measures where a geotechnical investigation has satisfied us that there will be negative impacts from the development. With respect to flood protection, we have ensured that there will be no residential development in the Elbow River floodplain. And with respect to protection of the Elbow River water quality, we have ensured that the sewage treatment system will be required to meet all Alberta water quality guidelines, and the system will be required to operate on the principle of zero discharge to surface water bodies.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm encouraged that the Minister and his department appear to be dealing with the concerns raised by the Board of Health, but I'm wondering, can the Minister advise the Assembly what further or new and additional steps he'll be taking to ensure the ongoing protection of this critical watershed?
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, I have to reiterate that municipal subdivision planning is really the responsibility under the Planning Act and the Municipal Government Act of the local jurisdiction. Nonetheless, there is pressure for development along the Bow River, or the Elbow River, in particular west of Calgary. And what I've agreed to do is to meet with the Calgary Board of Health and perhaps put in place a multi-stakeholder group to do some baseline studies on the Elbow River and set some guidelines, some parameters for future and present development plans along that river course.
Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I drew to the attention of the Solicitor General the fact that the Molson's Brewery in Calgary was replacing lost production due to the strike there by bringing in beer from BC, and the Solicitor General replied, quote, "If the Molson's people choose to be on strike, then they will not bring in beer from other provinces." I have for filing today a copy of the BC decision that I relied upon. My question is for the Solicitor General. Given the fact that since the date of the decision, Molson's has imported 36,000 dozen beer and 252 kegs from BC, how does the Solicitor General explain to Albertans the blatant disregard that Molson's is showing for this, his so-called denial of their request to bring in beer from outside of Alberta?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to further clarify that and apologize if there was any misleading statement made yesterday. There has been for a number of years in the province of Alberta an agreement with breweries that breweries can in fact import up to 10% of product into the province of Alberta. The letter I referred to yesterday from the chairman of the Liquor Control Board or to the board from Molson's was a request to exceed this limit. And that was put before me as Solicitor General and Minister in charge of the ALCB, and I indicated as a direction to the chairman of the ALCB that under no circumstances was the agreement to be exceeded, and the agreement must continue to be enforced as it was without any exception.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The facts are that Molson's is importing a good deal of beer, and it's obvious that this could exceed the 10% limit. I'm wondering what steps the Solicitor General is taking to monitor this situation to see that they do not, in fact, exceed the 10% limit and that they comply with the reciprocity aspect by exporting the 10% required.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The steps that I've taken, of course, are a direct instruction to the chairman of the Alberta Liquor Control Board that it was not to be exceeded, and the agreement as it is in place is to be strictly adhered to. And I fully expect and have no reason to believe otherwise that the chairman and the board will not accept that instruction from this minister.
Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since the front bench is reminiscent of an old man with many missing teeth, my question today is to the silver-haired and silver-tongued treasurer. The Alpac pulp mill, Mr. Speaker, is going ahead despite the protests of thousands of Albertans. And we all know that this government likes to stack the deck in favor of its friends, and therefore comes as no surprise that the Northern Steel Company in Edmonton here that donated so heavily to the re-election campaign of the MLA for Sherwood Park has been given the contract, or a substantial contract at anyways, to provide steel for the Alpac pulp mill. And my question to the provincial treasurer is, since the treasurer who is in charge of this has managed to keep the master agreement between the government and the Alpac mill private, will the minister or will the treasurer today tell us what agreements Alpac or guarantees Alpac had to make that Northern Steel would in fact get a contract before they got the go-ahead?
Speaker, that's quite a pot of really misdirected and misleading statements by the member with respect to reflections not only in the government but on individuals who are here. And I think I'll only draw that to the attention to yourself, sir, because that's not the kind of decorum we expect in this House. Let me say as well, Mr. Speaker, the matter of Northern Steel has been discussed in this Assembly on several occasions. The Minister of Economic Development has put forward to the people of Alberta his plan to privatize that entity. Obviously, there's some suggestion from the member that there's a connection between Alpac, disclosure of information in Alpac, decision-making in Alpac, with Northern Steel. Now, that's just the classic red herring argument, Mr. Speaker, and it doesn't even merit an answer, Mr. Speaker.
Sidestepping once again, well, a supplementary to the minister is to the treasurer is this: since Northern Steel, we all know, is on such shaky financial ground that in fact their suppliers won't even give them material on credit, will the Treasurer at least commit that no more public money is going to be placed at risk with Northern Steel, that you won't give them any more money?
Speaker, I won't make that commitment at all. The member knows that Northern Steel is now essentially owned by the province of Alberta. As the Minister of Economic Development has pointed out before, we're in the process of privatizing that entity. We don't want to maintain the control and ownership of that entity, Mr. Speaker. It's been restructured, it's been revitalized, it's going to be put back in the private sector, and those tenders are now out there for the private sector to look at. Any other suggestion by that member is absolutely false.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question today is to the Minister responsible for the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Mr. Speaker, the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities has served to heighten the awareness of our need to focus on a person's abilities and not on their disability. Now, while I'm pleased to see that the government has responded to their action plan's 114 recommendations, with 30 of the recommendations already in effect, clearly, however, Mr. Speaker, there is more room to do more. What assurance can this minister give that the government is committed to fully dealing with the action plan recommendations?
Well, Mr. Speaker, let there be no misunderstanding about this government's commitment to assist disabled Albertans to fundamentally improve the quality of their lives. Now, I ask honourable members to look at the record. Look at the Premier Getty's introduction of Bill 1 in 1988 to create the Premier's Council. Secondly, in 1989, our support, this government's support, for the vision statement submitted and approved by the Premier's Council. And now the action plan, Mr. Speaker. We have implemented 30 of the recommendations of the Premier's Council action plan. We're in the process of implementing 66 more. Mr. Speaker, we could easily have just simply put out a press release and said it's all done and put it behind us. But, Mr. Speaker, we are in the business, we're in the process of transforming the way government deals with disabled Albertans and trying to assist all Albertans to recognize that disabled Albertans have a rightful place as full contributing members of Alberta society.
Well, Mr. Speaker, while I do appreciate the Minister's assurances that the recommendations have been and are being implemented, I'd ask the Minister to give us a clear and better understanding of where we go from here. How are you dealing with those 66 recommendations that are underway? Could you be specific?
Well, clearly, Mr. Speaker, I can't deal with all 66, but I'll try to deal with 3 quite briefly. Education, an area that I'm somewhat familiar with, in special education. And the Premier's Council made some very serious recommendations in the whole area of special education and how we would better integrate children into classrooms. They assisted us in doing a special education review. They supported our efforts with a draft action plan. They participated with me some 2 weekends ago in a ministers' forum on special education. They are working with us as we make changes in how we educate our children. Mr. Speaker, in community supports, the Council called for a more consolidated, coordinated, comprehensive way of delivering personal supports to disabled Albertans. We've established a community supports task force that is creating a gradual, incremental plan to better deliver and better in a more coordinated way, a more comprehensive way, programs for disabled people. And lastly, we're working in between the Departments of Family and Social Services and Career Development and Employment to find out how we can better integrate and focus and coordinate training programs and rehabilitation programs for people with disabilities. So, Mr. Speaker, in those 3 areas alone, action has been taken and strong action is in the works.
Edmonton Jasper, please.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday in response to the Leader of the Opposition, the Minister of the Environment said about toxic hotspots, basically what we're trying to do is identify the sites, determine from an engineering and a scientific point of view what we can do to clean up the sites, and if it's going to take too much, it's going to require a concerted effort at this point, then what we will have to do is secure the site. Now, one of the worst hotspots is the defunct Osmos wood preserver plant on the south shore of Lesser Slave Lake. near Foss. It's an abandoned wood preserver plant, heavily contaminated with pentachlorophenols. In fact, the studies show there are about 10,000 times the safe drinking water levels according to Health and Welfare Canada. Given that this site is on one of Alberta's most important fishing lakes, commercially and recreationally, I'd like to know what steps the Minister is taking with his commitment to secure the site.
Mr. Speaker, as in the case of all the contaminated sites, we are performing detailed investigations, finding out what kind of measures need to be taken to either secure the site or to decontaminate the site. With respect to that specific site, Mr. Speaker, I would have to get a briefing on the situation and take the honourable member's question under notice and report back to him.
Well, I'll give him a briefing. A year ago, the consultant's report was completed. It says that the contamination has spread well beyond the site and recommended a $90,000 trench barrier to secure the site. And I would like to know why, in the year since then, this hasn't been followed up at all, and the trench has not been built, the site is not secure.
Mr. Speaker, I told the honourable member I would get him the information. I would get him accurate information and bring him totally up to date, and myself as well. But he misses the point. He misses the point, Mr. Speaker. It was the Department of the Environment that initiated a program, a very, very unique program in this country, to identify contaminated sites, to take action to clean up these orphan sites, and where the owner could be found to be responsible, to go after the owners to clean up these sites. There is no other jurisdiction in this country, Mr. Speaker, that has launched a program such as the HELP program to identify these sites and take action to clean up these sites, and this should be recognized by the honourable member.
Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, primary teachers do not shy away from accountability. As a matter of fact, they assess and diagnose continuously throughout the year. But they do have serious concerns about the current Grade 3 achievement tests, despite the Minister's reassurances to the contrary. The reasons are many. The tests are not congruent with the Grade 3 program, and their intent is confused, since they're not supposed to monitor individual student results, and yet individual results are sent to the schools. Parents and the public at large actually believe that the test is meant to evaluate individual students and teachers. To the Minister of Education, appropriate sample testing would be less costly and just as valid. Would the Minister consider abandoning the universal Grade 3 testing program in favor of sample testing?
Good. No, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, these tests are a form of adultization. They force our youngsters, age 8, into a form of activity that is beyond their intellectual development. Would the Minister at least justify the program, clarify its goals, and publicize what the goals are?
Kids in Barhead are pretty smart in grade 3.
Mr. Speaker, achievement testing in grades 3, 6, and 9 tests are one means of assessing the progress that is being made, not just by students, but more particularly classrooms, schools, and school jurisdictions. And, Mr. Speaker, we don't share the honourable member's view that accountability and accounting for the expenditure of dollars is something that we shouldn't do. We must. Alberta taxpayers are looking for that kind of accountability. And we are working specifically with grade 3 teachers to go beyond the normal paper and pencil testing, to make sure that the test continues to be congruent, and I take exception with the honourable member, to make sure the test is congruent with what children are learning in grade 3, what they learn and what they're expected to learn. And we're going beyond the paper and pencil, and we're going to review the portfolios of those children in the year that they are in grade 3. And that was done in May of 1990 on a pilot basis, and is in fact being expanded in May of 1991. So, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to account to Alberta taxpayers, to parents, and to other educational stakeholders to make sure that their tax dollars are being invested wisely, to ensure that their children are getting the best possible education.
Calgary Foothills, followed by Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Recently, concern has been expressed in this Assembly with regard to future trade agreements with Mexico. And recently, the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs went to Mexico to discuss matters with the Mexican officials. And I was wondering if the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs could advise the Assembly if he had discussions with the Mexican officials as to whether Mexico was planning on entering the California gas markets, which could have a tremendous financial effect on Alberta gas producers.
Mr. Speaker, the discussions which were held by myself and representatives of the energy industry who accompanied me to Mexico City earlier this week were very useful in obtaining advice from the president of Pemex and the three most senior vice presidents of the company relative to their plans for that company. It should be pointed out that Pemex, which is the state-owned oil and gas producing monopoly, a company in Mexico, managing a fully integrated oil and gas operation, is the fourth largest company in the world. They have made it very clear, however, in our discussions that they have no intention of entering the natural gas markets in the United States of America. Rather, it is their intention to bring into northern Mexico gas from Texas and to supply the balance of the Mexican gas markets from the fields, the natural gas producing fields, which are located in southern Mexico. I think that is good news for the Alberta natural gas producers, since it relieves a misconception that has been at play not only in this Assembly but in parts of Alberta, that indeed we would then be competing with Mexican gas into the California market. In fact, that will not be taking place, and in fact, Texas gas moving into Mexico may relieve some of the competition that we now have in place from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a supplementary, I was wondering, Mexico is also a major producer of oil. And did the minister have the opportunity to determine Mexico's future marketing plans for oil in the North American marketplace?
Well, Mr. Speaker, there, of course, Mexico is an exporter into the world, but what we had given to us as advice was that their intention is to maintain their current level of exports. What they are really planning to do, however, is utilize within Mexico, in their new expanding economy, and I believe it will be an expanding and vibrant economy eventually as a result of their complete 180-degree turn from the state-controlled stagnant economy, which resulted from such state control over the last several decades, that they intend to utilize their energy resources within Mexico to enhance their industry, to build the opportunities for their own people, and to encourage the great and substantial increase in the standard of living for the people of their own country. And it struck me, Mr. Speaker, that the people who we met with knew the issues and were on top of them and are indeed proposing to make a dramatic change in that country, and I applaud them for their efforts.
Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday defensive letters written by the Minister for Advanced Education started arriving on the desks of members of boards of colleges, universities, and technical institutions. I have a copy of this letter, and I'd be pleased to file copies with the Assembly. The interesting part about this letter, the defensive part, is that the minister is running scared on the subject of electing board members as opposed to cabinet appointments of them. He goes so far as to say that I said in the House that current members should even be fired and that future board members should be selected by election of stakeholder organizations. My question to the Minister of Advanced Education is this: why is the minister so scared about the possibility of electing board members to these very public and accountable institutions? What's the problem?
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe there's anything wrong with democracy if the member for Edmonton Highlands is embarrassed about what's in Hansard or proud of what the honourable member had put in Hansard. I would hope she'd like members of the public, certainly board-governed institutions, to be in receipt of it. And I thought I was doing the member a favor by seeing the people affected were receiving a copy of her comments in Hansard.
Those good Tories were worried, eh, John?
Thanks to the nice guy across the way. I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, I have enjoyed it because there's a lot of support for my private member's bill, which the New Democrats do stand behind, Mr. Speaker. We believe in electing boards and having them accountable. My question to the minister is this. If he's so convinced, as he said on that day in the Assembly, that his appointees are so good, if he's so convinced, why is he so scared to allow them to stand for election, which is what would happen if my bill were enacted?
Mr. Speaker, I'm puzzled by the member for Highlands who appears to be, or thinks the honourable member is clairvoyant. Our position's very clear. We believe that citizens within a community that the institution serves, and not Edmonton, and certainly not government, is best qualified to determine the affairs of the institution. Mr. Speaker, we go to great lengths to solicit nominations for appointment to the boards of governors. In my view, one only has to look at the record. And I just quote, Mr. Chairman, those who would take issue with people like Mr. Milner at the U of A, Mr. Haskane at the University of Calgary, Mr. Libben at SAIT, Mr. Shaw at NAIT. Mr. Speaker, I am surprised at the inference of the honourable member who thinks that these are not well-respected, qualified, and experienced people in Alberta who are serving the public well. Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member for Highlands is prepared and wants to endorse a process of having these people elected, I encourage her to proceed with the bill, and if members of this Assembly agree, that'll become the law.
Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The languages and cultures of Aboriginal people flourished in Alberta before the arrival of the Europeans. Unfortunately, efforts by government and church to suppress Aboriginal cultures led to the loss of heritage and languages. A recent major report by the Assembly of First Nation indicates that several Indian bands in Alberta continue to experience significant declines in the use of Aboriginal languages. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister responsible for Aboriginal or Native Affairs, will this government support the establishment of an institute whose purpose would be the preservation and promotion of Aboriginal languages in Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, that is an extremely complex matter, and to give any commitment here today in respect to setting up such an organization, establishment, or whatever, would be totally inappropriate, I believe, without a very deep study into the subject itself, and I simply cannot make that commitment at this time.
Mr. Speaker, the Native Education Project introduced by Alberta Education in 1987 to strengthen ties between home and school with liaison workers appears to have been successful. However, a major obstacle in the way of further progress is the widespread lack of Aboriginal teachers in the classroom. I'd like to ask the Minister of Advanced Education, given this government's policy statements recognize that participation of Aboriginal teachers is an essential part of improving the learning opportunities for Native students, why has this minister been so reluctant to establish a Native teacher education program as proposed by the Deans of Education of 3 universities in this province?
Mr. Speaker, as the member may well be aware, we have in this year's budget, I believe, an appropriation of some $120,000 to deal with the whole question of Native teacher education for Northern Alberta.
Westlock Sturgeon. Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Associate Minister of Agriculture. It says the Alberta farmers, Mr. Speaker, are wondering what the CEQA silence to this government when it comes to the Mulroney government opening up the border for U.S. wheat imports. This is in spite of the fact, Mr. Speaker, that the U.S. has broken the spirit of the free trade agreement by bonusing their grain exports abroad, thereby bringing the price of wheat down. So where the Canadian government has had to expand their subsidies and consequently open the border for American wheat. I'd like to know, Mr. Speaker, and many other farmers in Alberta, why this government is not making some moves or pressuring Ottawa to pressure Washington to keep the border closed for a while yet.
We're going to print it up anyway.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think that in the member's question there was an assumption that he may not be correct on. Certainly the Minister of Agriculture and myself have had discussions with our Federal Minister of Agriculture on this issue. I should point out to the honourable member that we export wheat to the U.S. far more than we would expect that they would bring wheat into this country. And the reason that the U.S. buy Canadian wheat is because of the very high quality of wheat that we grow here. And I don't think that that is probably going to change.
Mr. Speaker, the question was what this government is doing to try to stop, hold up or keep the border from being open to stop the flow north. We know there is a good flow south, but we're talking about the flow north, which the federal government will allow. And they said you had discussions with the federal minister. What did you tell the federal minister to do with respect to border opening for American grain coming north?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the discussions that we had with the federal minister would certainly hinged around the fact that we are staying within the terms of an agreement. And we do have an agreement, a trade agreement between the U.S. and Canada. And the agreement does state that when certain levels of support are balanced, then export and import change. And we're staying with the spirit of the agreement. We will be very careful that it is in the proper way with our trade agreement. I would remind the honourable member that the United States is the biggest customer of agricultural products from this province in particular, and I would ask the member to become more familiar with our trade agreements and the rules that we both, on both sides of the border, live within those trade agreements. So I'd be happy to share that information with the honourable member and have a further discussion with him on it.
Orders of the day. Might we have unanimous consent to